Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing all? I hope you are doing well, staying healthy, enjoying life, and must be planning to improve your life. Here, we are to do so. Here, daily we read a chapter of a novel to develop reading habit to improve our English, including reading, writing, speaking, vocabulary at the same time enhancing our knowledge. As we know, reading is the best practice to develop all these things, which help us in many ways. Reading could be one of the good hobby to make a change in ourselves. As we have heard from many prominent personalities that books change their life, add values, widen their knowledge. We can live other life by reading a book and get all those experience and learn from their mistake. Why to commit same mistake if we can learn from them and improve our life? So join me in this journey to become best version of ourselves. Before starting, I would love to hear your thought in comment section. Remember to like, share with your loved one to change their life as well, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Raise the bell again for daily updates. Today we are going to read chapter 14, Fighting to Be There. This is a part of novel Like It Happened Yesterday, which is written by Ravinder Singh. We have already covered 13 chapters and today we are going to read this chapter. We have learned so far, we have learned so much, and today we are going to learn something new. So let's read and see what is there for us.
14. Fighting to be there. It was the second week of December. The half-yearly exams were in the past tense now. The results were due in the future, early January. We were left with a pleasant month on our hands that had Christmas, the New Year's Day, and a week of winter vacation in between these two holidays. But what made December special for me was the school's annual day celebration. The peon brought a notice register, and English sir read out the notice for everyone. He announced the date of the annual day for that year. It was the 24th of December. He also read out the list of the various events that the teaching staff had planned for that day. There were quite a few interesting events such as theater, dance, and mime. Interested students can give their names too. He spoke out the names of the teachers in charge after mentioning each event. I think about 20% of our class loved the annual day celebration because they enjoyed participating in the various exciting and creative events. The remaining 80% of the class loved it as well, but for the concept of the last period being zero period. This meant that, for about 2 weeks till the day of the event, all the last periods in school were cancelled. The event participants were to use this period to practice, while others were allowed to go out and play games. The whole atmosphere in the school changed during these weeks. It was a lot of fun for everyone since studies were minimal. The annual day was followed by vacations, so there was a lot to look forward to as well. I belonged to that 20% of the class who got excited about the annual day events, and who, from day one, start dreaming of the applause that they would get after their show on stage, in front of everyone. That was a high point in my life. I initially wanted to opt for the Bhagra event, but then, the role of being an anchor for the annual day turned out to be the most tempting of all. The English sir in our class had announced that the English ma'am from the primary school was in charge of the anchoring part of the event. Auditions were to start from the next day. But my daydreaming started from the very moment Sir made that particular announcement. Late night, at home, I prepared for my audition. I had drafted a few lines for what I was going to say. In the morning, after taking a bath, I rehearsed my lines in front of the mirror. Respected chief guest, teachers, and my dear friends, this evening I welcome you. I started by holding a virtual mic in my hands and a towel wrapped around my waist. Mom looked at me and asked me what I was up to. I told her not to disturb me. So she gave me sufficient time to play it out in front of the mirror. In the zero period that day, I turned up in the computer lab room. This was the room that had been allotted for the comparing auditions. I found that my competitors were already there, 5 boys and 4 girls, all from different classes. Strangely, there was no one else from my class. All the aspirants were making full use of the free computers. Some of them were busy playing Pac-Man on the machines, while others were fiddling with the screensavers flashing on various other machines. I looked back at the door. I wanted to know if I had to compete with only those 9 people, or if there were more students coming in. Thankfully, no one came. But, just to be sure, I shut the door and led myself to a vacant seat. The next time the door opened, I couldn't help but smile. She was yet again there in front of me, the love of my life, the primary school English ma'am. And soon she and I were going to talk to each other. She looked even more beautiful that day. Perhaps because she had left her hair open. It was thick and black. Yes, students, so you are all here for the audition? She asked. Everyone replied in a loud, yes. There was excitement in the air. I replied after everybody had answered in unison. I wanted to stand out from the others. All right, so let us see what have you prepared, she said and took her seat, right next to me. Oh boy, her hair smelled so good. Her presence so close to me had made me anxious. This happened to me every time we were close. I would become so aware of her that I would go numb. I was sure I would have frozen at her mere touch. Such was the effect. It was amazing how much I wanted her to be near me and how the same nearness paralyzed me, so much so that I would find it difficult to deal with it. I found it difficult to speak. Forget about speak ing out aloud. It was impossible for me to even hide the flush on my cheeks. I was always eager to present only the best of me in front of her, but, with those cold hands, chattering teeth and stammer ing speech, it was difficult to appear even normal. I had already expected these sorts of things to happen to me. Hence, to be better prepared, and to handle that chill in the air-conditioned room in the presence of English ma'am, I had already drunk enough water and also been to the bathroom. I felt fairly confident. She looked around to see who would like to present first. Her eyes rested on me. Ravinder, would you want to go first? She asked. My name sounded so sweet on her lips. I smiled. I was on cloud nine, simply because of the fact that she had remembered my name. But I was still nervous. I rubbed my palms together in an attempt to calm down. I took a deep breath and, when I was ready, I began. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are here to celebrate, and everyone laughed. I could not figure out why they were laughing. I looked at English ma'am. Ravinder, the boy has to do the anchoring in Hindi. I felt like I'd got a cardiac arrest. I looked at everyone. My dream had been broken, my confidence had just been shattered. There was complete silence in the room, followed by some giggling. You are delivering your lines in English, which is to be done by the girl, ma'am clarified. Oh, is it? I asked. Now, when was this piece of news broadcast? I thought to myself, rubbing my fingers on my forehead. The notice that had been circulated yesterday had this point in the end, a girl added. Of course, it would have been there. But how come I never noticed it? because I hadn't listened to anything after I'd heard English ma'am's name on that day. What an idiot I had made of myself. The plane of my audition had crashed, dashed to the ground even before it had taken off. The feeling of not being able to make it in this round made me feel frustrated and helpless. I went back to take my seat. The teacher called the next boy in line. He delivered a few lines. He was good with them. I hated him, not because of his good speech, but because of Mam's sudden interest in him and his speech. Very good, she said, and then clapped. So the rest of the folks clapped too. Except me. I wanted to be different from the others. What's your name? She asked him. Now what is there in his name? I wondered. Okay, fine. He delivered a good speech, but then ask ing his name was a bit unnecessary. To be honest, he wasn't exceptional. Just a little more than average. And I could have done a better job than him, if only. I cursed myself for not having listened properly. I cursed myself for daydreaming at the mention of Mam's name and not listening to anything beyond it. But what could I do now? There he was, the star of the moment. Ma'am, I am Parth, he said softly. I looked at his legs. I wished he would break one of them. One by one, everyone delivered the speeches they had prepared. The boys did theirs in Hindi and the girls did theirs in English. When the bell rang, Ma'am announced that she would reveal the names of the selected ones in next 2 days. For a stupid mistake, I felt I had lost everything. But then, everything was fair in love and war, and now I had another idea. From the very next morning, I started making my case to English ma'am. I had prepared a brand new speech, this time in Hindi. All I wanted her to do was to hear it. Initially, she did not want to listen. But, when I encountered her for the third time in the day, she promised to give me 5 minutes of her time. Twice in the past, I had fallen off her expectations. So this was going to be a do or die situation for me. She called me to the same computer lab in the recess. I was there on time. To my surprise, so was she. It was nice again to be so close to her, more so because, this time, there wasn't anyone to distract her interest. I had all her attention. She was there just for me. I felt special. As I entered, the airtight door blocked out all the sounds from the world outside, and we were left in a lovely silence. Only the sound of the AC in the lab made its presence felt. I took her permission and switched off the AC. I did not want to feel cold. There were 1,000 things about her, especially at that moment, which could have bothered me. But I kept my focus on what I was there to do. And I spoke once again, this time in Hindi. No one can be unlucky for a long time. Just like it happens in our movies, no matter how difficult the start is, by the end of the movie, all the dots connect and everything falls in place. Well, this day turned out to be one such ending of a movie for me, and the beginning of the next. Unlike my previous two encounters with English ma'am, this time I rose from my own ashes like a phoenix. I delivered the speech perfectly. It was another story that, the day before, I had made the Hindi teacher from my old school in Burla write the speech for me. I had taken her some of the famous gulab jamuns from Ram Bharos, in O, there to gently coax the best out of her. By morning, I had mugged up the speech by heart, ready to reproduce it without a single mistake. And I had done exactly that. The inclusion of some heavy duty Hindi words such as Shriman, Mahodaya, and Vidyati managed to have a lingering effect on her mind. Fabulous, Ravinder, she gushed, clapping with joy as she stood up. How I liked that smile on her face, and loved it more because I was the reason behind it. The next moment I felt her hand on my shoulder. That was it. I was about to faint. That was the best moment of my life so far. How did you do that? She asked me. It was quite easy for me. I showed off. Then I asked her if I could get the boys' role to do the comparing in Hindi. She asked me to wait till she announced the result in the official notice later that day.